I should briefly summarize, the plot of Everyday Use. Everyday Use begins in a rural town in the south in Georgia, and in this rural town, um, we see a mother anticipating the arrival of her daughter. This is her other daughter. There are two daughters playing this work, and she's anticipating the arrival of her daughter. Her daughter is a very successful woman. Her daughter is a student at a college, at a university, and has gone on to do things with her life and so on. But these are rural people, very poor people, and the mother is very self-conscious about her her lack of sophistication, her looks and what she looks like, and how she sees her daughter as this beautiful, stunning figure. And she's struggling with that. At the same time, there's another daughter who has stayed with the mother all this time, and it's about the same time, about the time of the story where there's news that her other daughter has a relationship with a man and is going to marry this young man in the community. Her daughter is not classically seen. The mother describes the other daughter not as beautiful, but as actually unattractive, as somebody who is lacking in all the sophistications and graces that the anticipated prodigal daughter who is going to return has. And of course, she does arrive, and she arrives with a young man, introduces the young man with an African name. And in this moment, in the encounter between the mother, the daughter, and later on the second daughter, and this man that is with her, we have this drama that unfolds. It's a very simple drama, and it's a drama that very quickly rushes to the question of what the daughter who has returned is desiring. The daughter who has returned has suddenly gained a fascination and an interest in her culture. And we learn from some backstory that she did not feel that way before, but now she's back and she's interested in her culture, and she's particularly interested in a number of items in her home, which she sees as having tremendous value all of a sudden. Those items include a butter churn, which is an object there that she thinks is really important and valuable, and then of course it includes the quilt, and it's the quilt that becomes the central symbol in the work. And where does the conflict arise? The conflict arises when the daughter who has come from outside says she wants the quilt, and the mother says, I had decided to leave the quilt to your sister because she's getting married. And of course, the 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 daughter, the educated daughter, complains and says, what will she do with the quilt? She's just going to let it be destroyed and so on. And it's a very interesting moment because in that moment, the mother and the daughter have this tension, and the mother has to make a decision as to what should happen to the quilt. Eventually, the mother chooses to keep the quilt and give to the daughter, the lesser daughter, so to speak. And it's a very interesting question. Why does the mother make that decision? And it's also an interesting question because, of course, what Alice Walker is doing in this work is she takes us through this narrative, and it begs the question of who, in fact, Alice Walker deems as correct and right in this work. The work is about the quilt, but the work is about motherhood. It's a very fascinating work in which the mother is thinking about herself, thinking about her daughters, and thinking about her own body. She imagines, there's this great moment where she imagines herself being on a show like the Johnny Carson show, where her daughter is being featured and she's being interviewed, and she's very conscious that she doesn't look right, she doesn't look attractive or interesting, she looks embarrassing to her daughter. That internal shame makes her feel this way about the daughter, but yet this is the same daughter who it's feared had threatened to burn down and wanted to burn down their home, their poor home, because she wanted to escape the poverty and the hardship of that life. And she does escape it and goes up north, and she goes to a university and she becomes educated. Yet what is interesting is that when she returns, the mother is still privileging her. The mother is still looking for the daughter's endorsement and kind of acceptance and so on. But something does switch inside of her. Something changes inside of her when she begins to recognize that what her daughter is doing is demeaning who she is, demeaning where she's from, and treating these factors in very negative ways. The question is, when what is Alice Walker's ultimate point, and where do you stand in what is essentially a debate? Because of course we would normally then say, of course, the mother um, attitude to the other daughter is wrong. We might say then that the fancy daughter, the daughter who is coming from outside, is actually has the wrong attitude and has a very negative attitude, and it's somebody that should not get the quilts and all of these things. This seems to be the direction that's going. But I think Alice Walker is up to something quite deviously dangerous and interesting, because it does beg the question that one has as to how the reader of the story identifies, and with whom the reader of the story identifies in the work. So when we come back, we'll look at that in some detail.